just as I mentioned yesterday, PBE dropped and Riot revealed Fiddlesticks, which means that his voice is out, we know about all of his animations, and as a nice bonus, earlier today Riot also revealed his bio. Now, we will go through Fiddlestick's story in depth when he gets released, because that's when he will get an extra short story besides the bio. But for now, because we will talk about Fiddlestick's voice, let me quickly tell you the TLDR version of the story for context. So, many years ago there was a mage in a tower near the sea, but it was never specified where exactly was the mage from. In that tower, the mage was fiddling with some dark magic, and he managed to summon a creature that was far beyond his control. This creature was the demon we know as Fiddlesticks. The story mentions that in Runeterra, Fiddlesticks is just a legend, but the legend is slightly different depending on which region you are in. For example, in Freljord, they describe Fiddlesticks as a body made out of weapons, helmets, woods and fur. Pretty much all the common material you can find in the north. But then in Bilgewater, Fiddlesticks is described totally differently, and he has a different form in Ishtal, Shurima, and even Piltover and Ionia. And as the story describes all of these different kinds of Fiddlesticks, at the very end the story says something very important. It confirms that although these are just legends, Fiddlesticks is real, and this is how the story describes him. A legend of great evil that has no form, no thoughts, and no understanding of the world it inhabits, instead building itself into the crude shape of those that fear it, the terror of all living things, given life in that first terrible scream of creation, a demon before demons were known. This confirms that Fiddlesticks was in fact the first demon to ever exist, since it mentions that Fiddlesticks was created in the first scream of creation, which I think is just a twist of words for the breath of creation that Aurelian is talking about. But the reason why Fiddlesticks is a little bit uncanny is because Fiddlesticks wasn't on Runeterra for a very long time. We don't really know what happened to him, but somehow Fiddlesticks appeared on Runeterra, then he was banished for countless years. Enough for everyone to forget that Fiddlesticks ever existed. And then the one lonely mage in the tower near the sea summoned Fiddlesticks back. So the reason why Fiddlesticks seems a bit more clumsy compared to someone like Tahm Kench or Evelyn is because for the most of his time, Fiddlesticks was probably banished somewhere. But it could also be because the demon simply doesn't care about Runeterra and it just doesn't understand it. But that's simply something we can't confirm or deny just from this bio. We will need to wait for the release story. The last thing I want to mention before we dive into the voiceover is that the story hints that there are multiple demons like Fiddlesticks. And as you'll see, Fiddlesticks himself says that he's the first of 10. However, Jared, who is the writer for Fiddlestick's story, confirmed that Evelyn, Tahm Kench, Nocturne and all the other demons are not one of these 10. Which means that we have the normal demons on Runeterra, and it seems like above them there is Fiddlesticks and whatever his kind is. Something like a super demon. Which would make sense because, again, Fiddlesticks was probably created with the breath of creation. At the very beginning of the universe. There is a theory that Fiddlesticks is the demon that is inside the cage. And in-game you can see the demon fly out from the scarecrow and even use it like a puppet. Which would suggest that the demon is using this puppet as a vessel. And in fact, when it's talking about 10 others, it is talking about 10 vessels around Runeterra. So according to this theory, by the 10 other demons, maybe Fiddlesticks is talking about 10 other vessels scattered around Runeterra. Because if you read into the Fiddlesticks legends all around Runeterra, all the nations describe Fiddlesticks differently. So maybe there are 10 different Fiddlesticks around Runeterra, and they all look different because they are all in different regions. And the demon is just jumping between the vessels, because the story also mentions that currently he is in Demacia, where the demon sensed a great amount of fear, which is the thing the demon hungers for. And of course there is fear in Demacia because of the entire mage civil war. Again, this is just a theory, but it would be cool if this was true that there are 10 different Fiddlesticks around Runeterra. Because suddenly this would be a champion where all of his skins are canon. Well, most of them. Because Spectral Fiddlesticks could be in Shadow Isles, Guardian of the Sands could be Shuriman, Union Jack fits into Piltover, and there is even the Bilgewater version. So I just really hope that this theory is actually right. But that should be enough context for the voice. So now, let me give you a quick warning. If you have not heard Fiddlestick's voice yet, you will get scared. I have no idea how the voice actor managed to do this, but oh god is Fiddlesticks horrifying. And that's because you need to remember, Fiddlesticks, as in the demon, can't speak. so it is only mimicking the voices it heard. But what's even cooler, because Fiddlesticks is supposed to be all over Runeterra, that means it heard a lot of people from the past. So Fiddlesticks' voiceover is nothing but bunch of references to really cool events all around Runeterra. So finally, let's quickly go through it, and I will tell you all the references that each voice line is hinting at. So let's get on it.
I'm always here, my little hero.
So the very first one actually comes from Nunu's mother, which is a character that did appear in Nunu's story, and she always called him her little hero.
Annie, help me, Annie.
Now, I don't think this one is Annie's sister, or technically sister-in-law, I believe. I do think that this is one of Annie's parents that burned in the house, because there will be another Annie quote later.
Evelyn.
Now, Evelyn is the first demon we have here. What is super cool is that every time Fiddlesticks encounters a demon, he calls them by their name. And remember this.
Karen, brother, please don't hate me.
Here we have a beautiful line from Lux. This one comes from when they were just kids, where Lux wasn't really sure what she was doing and she conjured tiny lights. Of course, her parents then immediately stopped her, and Lux wasn't sure if she herself wasn't evil. I believe that this scene was mentioned in one of Lux's short stories.
Jinx, all your fault, all your fault.
And this one comes from Jinx's sister, which we are still not sure who it is technically, because the story has not confirmed anything yet. But considering the Arcane animated series is coming, it is probably going to be a line from that animated series. And the person who's talking will probably be Vi.
Greyman.
Now, Greyman is very interesting, and it could be for two reasons. Either it's because when you combine the wolf and the lamp, which is black and white, you get grey. But it could also be a reference to the old legend about Kindred, where a pale man split himself in two, and that's how Kindred were born. Of course, a pale man would fit the description of Greyman.
Little light.
Now, Little Light is what Silas calls Lux.
Sarah.
Now, of course, Miss Fortune's real name is Sarah, so this one could be anyone. But there is a better quote that's coming later.
Nocturne.
Again, Nocturne is a demon, and Fiddlesticks is calling him by his name.
Guilty, guilty, guilty.
Now, this one is super interesting, because Riven wasn't considered guilty for the longest time. Everyone thought it was Yasuo, and nobody knew that Riven was the one who accidentally killed the Ionian Master of the Wind. And since Fiddlesticks is mimicking voices it heard, nobody would be shouting at Riven that she is guilty. However, much later, in the story Confessions of a Broken Blade, Riven stood in a trial that was supposed to reveal what really happened that day. And that's when people realized that Riven was actually guilty. So I believe that these voices specifically came from the story Confessions of a Broken Blade.
Raum.
And this is why I told you to remember that Fiddlesticks is calling demons by their names. Because when he's talking to Swain, all he says is Raum, which is the name of Swain's demon. This was confirmed for two reasons. Number one, I tweeted about this, and the person responsible for Fiddlestick's story low-key didn't deny it. But it's also because the name Raum is a reference to a real demon that is supposed to exist. And it is supposed to look like a black bird that is taking on a human appearance. And Riot likes to take names from real-life references. So Raum is the name of Swain's demon.
Venice, don't hurt her.
Of course, Venice was Silas's master when he was being taught how to be a mage seeker. And in his story, they found a magical girl, which Silas wanted to protect. But spoiler, everyone died at the end.
Tom Kench.
Again, Tom Kench is a demon, and that's why Fiddlesticks calls him by his name.
Vane, give us a smile.
These are actually Vane's parents speaking, because even as a child, Vane was always grumpy, and the parents just wanted her to smile.
Brother, How could you betray us?
Of course, this is Yon speaking.
It's hunting us. It knows what we're afraid of.
There are also a bunch of these voices from random characters around Runeterra, where they are being hunted by Fiddlesticks. Just so you know how cool and terrifying these voices are, here is a quick cut of the best random characters.
They haven't come back from the fields. It's been 3 days. I'm coming to help. Where are you? I can't see you. I can't see you. It's not dead.
Also, a really uncanny voice line is when Fiddlesticks is trying to whistle, or at least he's trying to copy someone who was whistling.
Annie, don't let go.
And this is the other Annie quote I was talking about. This one was Annie's sister-in-law, who drowned in a river. That's why she shouldn't let go.
Hide, Sarah, hide!
And this is the other interesting quote for Misfortune. I am pretty sure that this voice line comes from Misfortune's mother. Because according to the story, when Misfortune was young, she only lived with her mother, who was killed by Gangplank, who ordered some of their guns.
I'll save you.
Now, although normally Fiddlesticks is copying the voice of someone near the main character, because he is likely trying to terrify them, here it is Nunu himself who is speaking, because the main character here who he is trying to scare is Willem.
High above the rotten rose, cloth and metal teeth and crows.
Fiddlesticks often also sings these folklore songs, because these are the stories that are scattered around Runeterra.
Fiddlesticks, end of men. Fiddlesticks, first of 10.
And this is also an interesting line, because this is the one that confirms that there are 10 Fiddlesticks. We don't know if that means that there are 10 of the demons that control Fiddlesticks, or if there is one demon that controls 10 Fiddlesticks. I wonder if that will ever be revealed, because this sounds like a cool mystery that could stay around League of Legends for a while. Now, what is also interesting is that Fiddlesticks doesn't copy only human voices. He tries to mimic all sounds, including, as you will hear, pigs and even horses. And another quite scary thing is that he also mimics the out-of-breath people, which means that these are the voices of the people who tried to run away from him. And then there is also this quite creepy scene, where someone found Fiddlesticks in their house.
It's in the house! We can't get out! Don't open your eyes! It won't die!
And I am pretty sure that would be enough for Fiddlesticks. As I said, we will dive deeper into his full story with his release, because that's when we will also get a short story about him. There is also the voice of Surprise Party Fiddlesticks, where it is just a bunch of memes and other references, including a reference to Zoe's key, where he also confirms that the key came from the old Fiddlesticks. But other than that, overall, if Riot's goal was to make a terrifying champion, I am pretty sure they succeeded. But I'm not sure if the overall player count will go up, because most people will just quit because of him. Hey, did you know that we have social media and Twitch where we talk about other League facts and stories? And did you know that we have neat mugs and shirts too? The links to all of that will be below. And as always, thank you, come again.